a drive, left field. It's deep. It's gone. Yes! And it is gone. Yes! It is bedlam at the bank.
Look at the doctor. Yes, he's got it. Here he comes. Way rock the baby to sleep and slammed up. And the doctor made a sensational play.
In front, the front, and they score! And Giroux got it!
Goldstein fires. Left and goal!
Brady back again. He's got to be 10 and full forward. And he fumbles the football and the Eagles have it.
We welcome you to the Phillies Sports Hour and welcome to March. I've been listening to the March Madness theme all morning, and then we are a few weeks away from that. Also, MLB season starts this month, so we are starting to get out of the dark days of sports, starting to get into I can see the light at the end of the tunnel of this horrible 4 weeks of sports. But there are a good amount of things to talk about today, positives and a lot of negatives to talk about in Philadelphia sports. Helping me along with that today on the Philly Sports Hour is Matt Brown. Matt, common guest on the show. How we doing?
Oh, I am doing great. You know, it's funny. This is the first time I've been back since the Super Bowl. It's been such a high since then. By the way, you might have to update that intro, man. You got to get some new Super Bowl highlights.
Yeah, I know. Sam said that last week too. I might need to do some editing.
But it's
Milt Williams and BG next to each other getting
so good. Maybe that Devontae bomb. But anyway, it's great to be back here. It's like you said, it's a little bit of the dead time, but we're in March, man. It's ready to get rocking and rolling. Spring is right around the corner. I'm ready to go. Baseball season, my favorite time of year. Let's do this. I'm so excited right now to get back to warm weather.
Yeah, we're like 2 weeks away from like one of the best times of sports, opening day, March Madness, NHL and NBA, although it seems like with these two teams right now, there won't be much to follow in end of March, early May with or early April with the Sixers and Flyers, but the Phils will be back, NFL draft and everything. So we're starting to get back to some good sports. But let's kick it off. We're going to start. I said earlier, there's positives and there's negatives in today's show, and the 76ers proposed a ton of negative. As will Joel Embiid is done for the season. He is out for the remainder of the year. Per the 76ers, they said the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid have been consulting with top specialists regarding ongoing issues with his left knee. After further evaluation, it has been determined that he is medically unable to play and will miss the remainder of the season to focus on treatment and rehabilitation. We are working with medical experts to determine the exact treatment plan and will update media when we have more information. The team and specialists will continue working with Joel to ensure the best path forward for his long-term health and performance. That is what the Sixers sent out yesterday to members of the media and on social media. Joel played 19 games this year. They had this team built so, they could load manage. They could have Joel out for some games. They could have Paul George out for some games. It didn't work. And now Joel Embiid's season is over. Where does Joel go from here? Did they do that surgery and then they're going to have to like break his hip or something to do that surgery? Yeah. Do they do the surgery? Like, what is the next move with Joel?
I really don't know where the next move is, and they'll eventually tell us if surgery is coming for him. I honestly think that he's probably going to have to get some type of procedure done. But this is 100% the right time to shut down Joel. You've seen the last couple games that he's played for the Sixers. He just can't move. Honestly, it looks like he's not able to move the way to play basketball, and it's honestly getting upsetting because you want the Sixers to win, you want them to play good with Embiid out there, but the more and more Embiid's out there, the more he just doesn't look like he can go. And you're forcing the ball to a guy, a 7'2" guy or whatever he is, down in the paint and just can't hit his mid-range jumpers, can't hit anything in the paint, can't drive, is constantly falling down and looks like he just keeps injuring himself. And it just doesn't seem like something that's going to be sustainable for the rest of the season. Last year when he got hurt middle of the season with his meniscus, I really thought he was going to be done for the entire season, and they were just going to be done last year, maybe make the play-in, see if Maxey can lead him to the playoffs. I just didn't think he was going to make it back. And he rushes his way. I don't even think he rushes his way back, but he makes his way back for the Knicks series at the end of the season, gets there, doesn't really look that dominant. They end up losing to the Knicks. And then they go into the summer, And then he ends up playing for the Olympics, and he looks pretty decent there. It kind of looks like he's getting healthier and better with his knee. And I thought that he'd be ready to go regular season. And then you've seen how this season went. Injuries, out 2 games and then playing for 1 and then out for another 5. It misses a month in between the season with more knee injuries, gets in like everything just keeps going wrong for him. And I honestly thought after that meniscus tear last year, or injury last year, I don't know if it was a tear, but meniscus injury last year that he suffered, I really thought that he was going to have to get surgery and then miss all of last season and then come back hopefully this season to be better. And I honestly think he's just putting off something that just needs to be taken care of and just rested. And now we're a year later since that injury, and he's probably going to miss the rest. He's going to miss the rest of this season, and he's probably going to miss the beginning of next season too, because he's probably going to need surgery again. So it's just been an overall just bad situation that has gotten even worse with Embiid. And it's just not going to, it's going to continue to get worse unless he 100% gets his knee or whatever is really hurting him healthy.
Yeah, surgery seems to be on the horizon. That feels like what we're going to, but I don't know if it's going to be the whole thing where they have to break the hip or they'll find something else. I don't know what they're going to do, but I feel like this all stems from early in his career with Joel when he was injured his first 2 seasons. He didn't play, and he really wasn't keeping care of himself. He was eating the junk food at Kansas, and along with when he was first coming to the Sixers, like this all stems from the early decisions you make, either financially, like just street smart, like what you do like in the real world, or what everything. It all things stem, and I feel like with this Joel thing, not taking care of your body when you're injured earlier in your career when you are young, it is now blown up to having trouble to recover it when you are 30-something years old. You didn't take care of yourself then. Now it's affecting you 10 years later because your body can't recover because you failed to recover fully because you were not taking care of yourself 10-something years ago.
No, yeah. And I hate people saying that he just doesn't want to play and he's just doing this to, make them. Joel wants to play. He wants to be a Sixer out there every single night. And you've seen it not only this season, but the seasons past, especially when he came back for the Knicks series last year. This guy wants to be on the court every night, but he early on realized that not taking care of his body has consequences, and it's affected him almost his entire career. And it's gotten to the point where an injury happens to him almost every year. They've tried to put, like you said at the beginning, try to put teams in place where he can be sustainable all year and he can get to that postseason tournament. And as long as he stays healthy during that, the Sixers have a good chance to win. He really hasn't been able to do that during his time here in Philly. The only time that's really happened was 2019 when they lost to the Raptors, and 2021 when they lost to the Hawks, and really the Celtics here too. But he was even banged up that year. But it's just been an overall just disappointing thing that has snowballed now for almost a decade now, or a decade plus now, that has snowballed into Embiid now getting into his older years. And I really don't know how much more time Embiid is going to have on an NBA floor. Like, it's going to take a lot from him to really rest up, get like whatever surgery procedure needs to be done, and to get back to being 100% floor, because we know how great Joel is. Joel was just scoring 70 points. Not even literally last season, he was scoring 70 points on Wembanyama. We know how great Joel Embiid can be, especially in today's NBA with the way they call fouls and the way that they manage games. We know how great Joel can be at his best. But at the same time, when he's injured and not playing good and just doesn't look like he can be the same guy out there, it's an upset situation because you want to get him the ball and you want him to be the number one option on the floor. But I just don't think he's able to do that right now, especially with the condition he's in. So this is 100% the right move to shut down Joel. I just don't think the team could sustain him being out there anymore. And at this point, it's time to just think about the offseason and moving on to next season.
Yeah, I want to ask you about, the future of Joel Embiid. It really seems like if he gets this surgery, I don't know if he can or will ever play again. Like, it sucks. Yeah. It's really hurtful to say because this is who the Sixers have been for the past decade, is to build around Joel Embiid, trust the process. And, here we are 11 years later, removed from the 2014 season where they lost 70-something games or whatever. We're 11 seasons later, and we are stuck in this black hole with Joel Embiid injured every season. It's now the Sixers aren't even going to make the playoffs for the first time since that 2016-17 season. Like, is this it for Joel Embiid? Is his career over? And like, where do the Sixers go from here?
I don't think his career is over. I think Joel, with the right rest, still has a couple number of years left in this league. I would hope it's for the Sixers, and I hope it's to win a championship with the Sixers. I just don't know if that's going to be the case. But where the Sixers go from here, they're in a really interesting spot this season, where in the offseason, where the Thunder, thanks to Al Horford, shout out Al Horford for this pick, having this protection on it. Still can't believe that we had to do that, but that's what you get for signing Horford for that contract. But anyway, getting to the point, they have in a really interesting spot where they have a top 6 protection on their draft pick this year. Most likely right now, if the season ended, they're going to be at the top 6 odds, and they're very likely going to get a top 6 pick. So now that puts them in a really interesting spot to add a top 6 to maybe top 5 player in this upcoming draft with the new kids that are coming in to the Sixers team that is already a pretty good team with the players they have around them, like Kelly Oubre and Maxey and hopefully Paul George. He can turn around after not podcasting, but they're in a really interesting spot the rest of the year because I hate using the word tank. I hate just losing games just to lose games, but they're pretty much in a spot where right now they need to focus on not winning basketball games. Focus on finding what guys that they can salvage for the years to come and for when hopefully Embiid comes back. And then just hopefully trying to lose more and more games, stay in that top 6 odds, and hope to God that they don't fall out of the 6 and give that pick to the Thunder, because you really want this draft pick this year. Because next year, when Embiid's hopefully back and you hopefully have a team again, you have a team that can go to the playoffs and be, I don't know, a top 6 seed in the East, and hopefully they're picking in the 20s. So that pick to the Thunder really doesn't matter that much. It's still a first round pick, but it's a pick in the 20s. Losing like a 7th or 8th or a 9th pick this year of the Thunder would really suck, especially because now that Embiid's out, the season's a wash. They're not winning the title. You really want to get that draft pick. So the best thing they can do right now is making sure that they get back in the top 6 or stay in the top 6, make sure they get up there. And who knows, if they really keep losing, they have a chance to get as high as odds as number 4. And if they get to the number 4 odds, they have a really good chance to get the number 1 pick. Even if they get top 6, I really do think they have really good odds to get the number 1 pick. Last year, the Hawks won the number 1 pick with a 3% chance. The Sixers, if they finish 6th, they have a 9% chance with the number 1 pick. So the odds aren't in their favor, but they have a chance to get up top. If they get up top and they can get a guy like Cooper Flagg, I do think that they would want to pair Flagg, Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid together. But there could be a chance that they could trade Embiid and restart. But just getting up top in that top 5 is really important. Top 6 is really important. You want to get a guy that can impact this team going forward. Oh, Jared McCain, I'm not even mentioning him coming back from his injury next year. They have some really good young pieces that they can build around with hopefully an Embiid that will be fully restored after this now being out for the season and the offseason, that can go back into 2025, 2026, that can maybe compete for a title in the East.
I love your optimism, Matt.
I'm trying. It's hard to take a bad situation they're in, but you're trying to do the best you can in a crappy situation. You're, like you said, not making the playoffs for the first time in almost a decade. You need to go get that top pick and get the pieces that you can to hopefully build a team that can compete for the next couple of years. Because Embiid, like you said, not many years left in this league. You got to do as much as you can if you keep Embiid around to get that championship here.
Well, this draft is centered around Cooper Flagg, of course, as everybody knows. Capture the flag. If they don't have that number 1 pick, which it's very likely they won't, who else have you kind of been looking at? Of course, we'll get a lot of look in on what could happen with the Sixers in the summer in their draft when March Madness starts in a few weeks. We'll see some headlines there. But outside of Cooper Flagg, who are you looking for the Sixers to possibly take if they have a top 6 pick?
So yeah, obviously you want Cooper Flagg. He is the no doubt best player in this draft, and you would love to add him to this team. But if you don't get the number 1 pick, getting top 6 is really good. There's some really good kids in this draft. And the key thing is really, if you can get to your spot in the order and you leapfrog into the top 4, getting a top 4 pick is really huge, because you will have the likes of Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, the 2 Rutgers kids. They're both averaging over 18 points, 7 rebounds. Dylan Harper is more of a kind of a bigger guard, like how Paul George is. He could be a really good another guard that you could pair up with Maxey, McCain, and him, and then Paul George at your 4. Another guy I really like is Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey is such a good shooter. He would bring big height and just really good shooting for them. Those guys 100% could be. They're most likely going to be not. I wouldn't say stars, but they're going to be really important pieces for the teams that are picking the top 6, and they're going to be really good. Outside of that, if you fall to the 5-6, you could go with a guy like Trey Johnson, who's more of another guard who's just more of a bigger scorer at Texas. He's having a really good season. He could be another really good maybe bench guy, maybe a guy that finds his way into the lineup. Another one, though, if they really want to go a big man, Kamen Mulawach, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that right. He's a 7'2" center out of Duke. This kid is insane. He is one of the longest players I've ever seen that isn't like Bobo or like one of those like freakishly tall guys. Taco Fall, one of them. He is just long, lanky. He looks like a little bit of another project like Embiid, but he is just the dominant force in the middle for Duke right now. You're going to see this man probably in March with Cooper Flagg just tearing it up when the March Madness tournament comes up. But those couple guys could be really big for the Sixers if they wanted to go big man and they wanted to get rid of Embiid in that scenario. But getting that top 6, really any of those guys up top could really turn your team around and give you another piece that could help you out, because who knows what's going to happen in free agency. You got a lot of free agents coming up. Gershon Uwasale, Quentin Grimes, who's actually looked really well for the Sixers, who they could end up bringing back, but it's another one that could walk. You're going to need to replace some guys this upcoming season and get some really good pieces. So there's a lot of good guys that you could get at that top 6 that you really would like to have.
Yeah, you mentioned moving Embiid. Here is the remaining contract information on Joel Embiid. So 24-25, he's making $51.4 million. 25-26, $55.2 million. 26-27, $59.5 million. 27-28, we jump up to $64.3 million. And the final year of his deal, 2028-2029, this includes a player option. $69.1 million. So if you want to move Embiid, you're going to have a team that has Elon Musk as their owner if they want to pay.
They could make the money work, kind of like how they did the Harden deal and just get a lot of expiring contracts and rebuild that way. But it'd be really hard to get a lot of value for Embiid without taking on another max player like that. And again, I don't know how many teams in the league would really want to match that kind of offer with a max player, but that's why I kind of don't like, I don't even say love, but that's why I kind of just don't think that the thing with moving Embiid would happen. But I could see it happen, them being tired of just the whole Embiid regime, but most likely he's going to stick around, and you really want to just get players that fit well around Embiid, because you still want to run this offense through him, but you just want players that fit well around him, fit well around Maxey as well, could be the type of player that could just score and get open for them when, they're getting big double teams. So it's going to be an interesting scenario where we'll know more in a couple of weeks at the end of April when when our spot in the standings comes out and where we see our odds are going to look like. So it'll be really interesting the rest of the season, how they treat it. Because right now we've lost 9 straight. We can go for 10 this week and just keep that.
Oh, Matt. Yeah, I mean, 9 straight games. They host Golden State tonight, which they're playing very well. So we're looking at 10. But Sixers, they're 28-38. Or 20, 20-38. 9-game losing streak, as you said. A lot of things to point at for the failure of this season. I saw a thing this week. I want to ask you this. Does this failure of a season, does this stem all the way back to Sam Hinkie when the process began? Because this was supposed to be the team with Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, your big 3 that was supposed to, put an end to the process, win the championship, and here we are. This is the worst team of the process era in the last decade of Sixers basketball. Does this go all the way back to Hinkie?
I don't really like to think it does, because he put the Sixers in such a great spot. He got them Embiid. He got them pretty much a terrible team that got them the number 1 pick in back-to-back seasons and then Brian Colangelo ended up messing up both those picks. I mean, Simmons, can't really say mess up. He was a 2-time All-Star and Defensive Player of the Year candidate for them, but just messing up the whole Markelle Fultz situation. I really don't get this back to him. He put them in such a great spot where they had such flexibility all over the place, and then it's just been messed up by pretty much everybody in their path. Signing bad free agents, not signing certain guys like Jimmy Butler. They kind of went all in during that 2019 year, and I think that was their year to win, and it just didn't end up going their way, and it just didn't end up signing the right guys and keeping the right guys around, and it's been bad coaching overall. But overall, just this season, I would have to put the blame mainly on Embiid, just not taking care of himself, not really making it so he could be healthy this whole season. I got to give a little bit of flack though to Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse is just not. Man, I've been really disappointed with him this season. I really think that I feel like he's trying to do the best he can, so I don't want to give him too much flack, but his defensive adjustments have just been really bad all year. I don't know if it's him doing it or some other coach, the way they're doing it. Their defense just looks so poor sometimes. They look terrible in the paint. The players just don't look like they care at all. I don't know if he's going to end up getting fired, Nurse, for this, but it's very likely he could. But it's just been an overall disappointing season from everybody. Got to probably put the most blame on Embiid just for the situation they put them in, but I wouldn't put all this blame on Hinkie. He put them in a really good spot to win moving forward, took advantage of a system that was flawed from the start, and gave them a ton of draft picks and cap room as well to just do whatever they could.
Yeah, well, we'll see what else goes on with the Sixers this year. It's not great stuff, if I'm going to be honest. But you know what is great stuff, Matt? SeatGeek. It's always been great. Always nice to us. Always great to work with. SeatGeek, they're the easiest. They're the most efficient way to buy your tickets. Each seat is given, green, red, yellow dot. Tells you if the deal is good, bad, or mediocre. Stay with the green. If you use code Philly Sports Report, you will save $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Again, code Philly Sports Report. $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. We got baseball coming up. We got NHL NBA down the stretch. We got March Madness. You gotta get some March Madness tickets. Those are always fun. So make sure you go check out SeatGeek. Link is in the description or the bio. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring. Let's talk about our Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, which it's so fun to say. Super Bowl, 2-time Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. And the Combine was this week. I didn't watch because I don't know. I just didn't watch. I don't know if you watched, if you saw anything, any standouts from the Combine.
So it's still going on right now. I think today is running backs and wide receivers, which kind of isn't really interesting to me for us because we really don't. I'm really not going to address that position. But no, I love the Combine. I'm a sicko when it comes to all things sports. I love the Combine. I love the NFL draft. I love this whole process of just looking at kids and college kids. The funny thing is the biggest thing with the draft concerning the Eagles has really not been about players that are coming out of this draft. It's been about Myles Garrett. Literally has been said all week that the big rumor coming out of Indy, that if you talk to almost any insider and every NFL team, if you think Myles Garrett's getting traded to one team, they all seem like it's the Eagles. That's bold from a lot of people just saying that. It's crazy how they feel, how many people have talked about that the vibe around Indy is that Myles Garrett has the best chance to be an Eagle. I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know what that price is still going to look like. Free agency is still a couple weeks out from that, starting for the NFL. So we'll see in the next couple of weeks if that maybe even more news comes out of that maybe Myles Garrett is on his way to Philly. But the breakouts I've seen from the Combine so far is funny. We mentioned Myles Garrett, Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, who has almost an identical build, height and weight and times and performances from Myles Garrett. He recorded I believe the best score for a defensive edge rusher in the entirety of the Combine since they tracked since 1987. That's been ridiculous. He's a guy who I've been seeing at the bottom of a lot of first round mocks who maybe could end up falling to 32. After this Combine performance, I think he's going to be on the upper side of the top 16. So most likely out of the Eagles hairs, but he'd be someone, if you don't want spend on Myles Garrett, you can end up drafting Myles Garrett if you want. But some guys that I've really liked to see over the past couple of days, one guy, Derek Harmon out of Oregon, defensive end. He looked really good, and he has been mocked right around that end of 20s to early 30s, right where the Eagles are going to pick. He could be someone that if the Eagles end up losing guys like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, could be someone they could take over and fill that void. Walter Nolan's another one, a defensive tackle from Ole Miss. He had a really good couple days, ran a really good time. Tyleik Williams, another one. He did a really good job on the on-field drills. The dip dive. I forget what that officially called. It's the dip dive one where they got to run in circles. He was looking really good with his feet. He's another big boy up front on the D line that the Eagles would really love, because I do think they're most likely going to use defensive line on that first round pick. So that could be, these are really all the guys that I really think that the Eagles can end up doing or taking if they end up keeping that first round pick and really want to take it with D line. So it's looking really good to be the Sixers. This is a really deep defensive line class for the first round. So it's a really good spot for the Eagles to be in if they want to address that position.
And that's good because the three big headliners on defense, I know one of these guys isn't technically defensive line, but Zach Bond, Milton Williams, and Josh Sweat are all free agents this season. And really, it looks like the Eagles are going to have to pick one and then lose the other two, which is a shame, but this is what happens. If you had to pick one, Zach Bond, Milton Williams, and Josh Sweat, who are you picking?
I'm probably picking Zach Bond. And it's crazy because the Eagles almost never pay linebackers, and it's so unlike them. But you have a really good middle linebacker that works in your system. You normally want to hold on to that guy. And I think Bond is worth the contract that they're going to give him. It's probably going to be somewhere around 3 to 4 years for 11 to 13 mil, around that. I think if they could work with money and really get some really good deals, they could end up keeping two of them. But if I had to pick one, it's probably Zach Bond. I do think Josh Sweat's going to get a really big deal from somebody. And it's unfortunate that you got a guy like Bryce Huff who's making a lot of money that is just going to cause the Eagles not to be able to re-sign some of their guys. It's unfortunate, but it's the way the NFL is. You know, you lose guys, and unfortunately for them, they'll end up getting conditional picks next year for the free agents they lose, so they will end up getting reimbursed for it. But you know, it's unfortunate losing those guys. I think Bond would work the best in their linebacker system with Nakobe Dean probably going to be out for the start of 2025. Try to keep guys like Oren Burks around and just hold on to that linebacker core as long as they can. I think drafting defensive linemen is an easier thing to do than linebacker. It's really hard to get a linebacker that fits your scheme so well, and I think they have that in Bond. So I think drafting the defensive lineman and replacing one for Milton Williams and Josh Sweat would be a lot easier for them in the draft, later rounds as well too. So it's unfortunate. I think they will lose Sweat and Williams, but maybe they can get some good deals and get two of them back in that scenario.
Yeah, the rumor has been that the Eagles could get outbid for Zach Bond. Someone posted on Instagram like that Josh Sweat is expected to not be an Eagle, and Sweat commented with that with like question marks. Milton Williams apparently going to get a big deal. So a lot of money being flown around involving the Eagles free agents. So it'll be interesting how that goes. And final Eagles point, the Green Bay Packers have proposed a ban on the Eagles' tush push. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. We saw last year that it was being discussed to ban the tush push. It obviously didn't get banned. Now this year we're back on it. The Packers are the team. There was a mystery team for like an hour and a half of who proposed the ban, but it came out that it was the Packers. And former Packers president Mark Murphy does a monthly Q&A on Green Bay's website, which is a little risky. If you're the president of a team and you're giving some question and answers, that could go some different ways. But I give credit to Mark Murphy for doing this. But he wrote a few weeks ago. I'm going to read the whole thing. I am not a fan of the tush push. There is no skill involved, and it is almost an automatic first down on plays of a yard or less. The series of plays with the Commanders jumping off sides in the NFC Championship game to try to stop the play was ridiculous. The referee was even threatened to give the Eagles an automatic touchdown if the Commanders did not stop it. I would like to see the league prohibit the pushing or aiding the runner on this play. There used to be a rule prohibiting this, but it is no longer enforced because I believe it was thought to be too hard for the officials to see. The play is bad for the game, and when we should go back to prohibiting the push of the runner, this would bring back the traditional QB sneak. That worked pretty well for Bart Starr and the Packers in the Ice Bowl. All right, so now this dude's pulling out some historical facts. But that is what Mark Murphy said on the Packers monthly Q&A. He just retired as the Packers president. I understand if you don't like how it looks, it's not pretty enough for you, by all means, because it's not a pretty play. It's a mass It's my heaviest guy versus your heaviest guys, one-on-one, helmet to helmet, mass versus mass, bodies colliding. Like it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. But if you want to say it's not a football play, what is a football play? That's my follow-up. I don't even know what that means. How dumb would it be if this play actually gets banned?
That whole what you just read, that whole thing is just not. I can't take it serious because he ruins it in the first sentence. Literally in the first sentence, he says it is almost an automatic first down every time.
Almost.
You ruin that word when you say almost right there. You ruin the whole thing. So it's not a first down every time. So people can stop it. You know, it honestly just seems soft. Like at this point, you don't play well against it, and so you just want it out of the game. Should we just if you don't play well against Tyreek Hill's streak, should we just put that out of the game because he's too fast? Should we get out of this game because you don't like the way that the Chiefs run certain plays with Travis Kelce? Like I don't know what we're doing right here. Like it just seems soft to me, and the whole argument with it is so the one argument, the other one you didn't talk about, the injuries has been brought up, and Sean McDermott said it's an injury riddled play, that it's just bound for someone to get hurt, when in reality it's never produced one injury in the NFL. Didn't produce one this past season. I also think it's funny that Sean McDermott was another one talking about this, how he wants a ban when he ran it like 20 times this past season with his quarterback. So I guess he cares about the safety of other teams, but not his own players. I don't know. Yeah, I thought that was really dumb. This is just a soft response to something that you don't need to get rid of. He's talking about the pulling of running backs where you used to not be able to pull guys into the end zone from the front. I don't see a problem with this. You've been able to push guys for years. It's a certain way to do it. I hate that it says no skill when in reality it takes the Eagles offensive line from getting in that formation like that. It takes our quarterback who can squat 600 pounds to be able to force himself into that end zone. Do I think that if there was injuries, this could get banned? Yeah, but again, there's no injuries riddled with this play. I just think it's a soft answer from a soft team. And I kind of feel bad for Packers fans that agree with us that it shouldn't get banned and don't agree with their president, because I think it's just a soft response for you being sore losers right now.
Yeah, NFL announced this week that its internal data shows the tush push play in 2024 across all 32 NFL teams that ran it. I know the Bills ran it the second most times after the Eagles, and still couldn't do it as well as the Eagles did. And Sean McDermott still wants it banned, so don't understand that. 0 injuries resulted from the play. Zero. So, you know,
yeah, I don't know where their argument is. It's stupid. If Jim Harbaugh. Sorry, excuse me. Jim Harbaugh was on Pat McAfee show, and they asked him about the tush push. He said, "And either get better at it, defending it, or run it better yourself." Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like it's just how it is. That's how the NFL is. Everybody copies from each other. Everybody was doing. This was a play that was an automatic first down every time. Everybody was doing it. Not everybody does it for a reason. Not everybody can execute it so well. Sirianni was talking about how pissed off he gets hearing about this because he talks about how hard they work at it, and they probably do. It's a play that takes them being their best and getting through, and it does get stopped sometimes too. I've seen it multiple times where the play just gets stuffed because they can't score over there, and they'll probably end up doing it again and again until they end up scoring. But the Eagles playing Green Bay this year, I'd love for them just to run it like 17 times in the game. I think it'd be so funny just to watch all their fans be pissed off that you just keep getting a first down every single time with the tush push.
And the game would be in Green Bay as well.
Yeah.
And you already know that's a primetime game, so that would be pretty funny.
Uh-huh.
And so I don't see this getting banned. I don't see this getting passed at all. I see a lot of the NFL coaches like Jim Harbaugh, either get good at it or figure out how to stop it. But nobody is ever going to be better at it than when you have a quarterback that squats 600 pounds and the biggest offensive line in the NFL. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about FOCO. Real fans need the best gear. That's why FOCO makes legendary gear for the most legendary fans. The Eagles run a legendary tush push, and you can wear some legendary Eagles gear. They have Super Bowl championship stuff in stock right now. And if you click on the link in the description or the bio, you can save 10% off any in stock items at Foco. They have Super Bowl championship overalls.
That's awesome.
Like, what are we doing? You
That's
need to get
awesome.
on that right now. Click on the link in the description of the bio. 10% off all in stock items. I've seen people wearing them, Matt, and they're beautiful.
That's awesome. Like, I still need to get my stuff. I have not ordered anything yet, and I still need to. I really love the hats that they were wearing, like, and the hats that they have available. They seem really cool. I'm not really a beanie guy. I'm more of like a not really flapping, but just a normal hat kind of guy. So I got to get one of them at least, and probably a jersey too. I think I got to get a Saquon one because my God.
Yeah, I went out Sunday
one.
night after the game, ran over to the Dick's, got the shirt, got the hoodie, got the hat. So we're all ready to go, and we're all ready to go for Phillies season. It is March. It is spring. It's 50-something degrees out right now. I feel like we're inching our way there, although it's going to be really cold this week, I think. But that's
It is.
So it was good while it lasted. But Bryce Harper got hit by a pitch a few days ago. He was very close to something being very serious. He ended against Toronto. Kind of got hit, like right here, just below the wrist kind of thing. And they're calling it his right tricep. He bruised it. And people were kind of scared. He returned the lineup yesterday. He was back in there on Friday, got a couple hits, and he looks fine.
Yeah, no, I think it's nothing to worry about. It's a hit by pitch. It fortunately missed his face and any major like bones that would have caused some injury, but he'll be okay. Like you said, it's a bruised right tricep. He should be good to go moving forward. I don't think he's going to make any away starts anymore. They said he'll only be playing at home, which is how he normally should be anyway. But went out there first base yesterday, looked pretty good in the field. Had 2 singles yesterday, looked good at the plate. You know, this team overall, it's looking pretty decent throughout the spring on the pitching side and the hitting side. I try not to take spring training so serious because, like, you have games like yesterday where the Red Sox dominated the first couple, first middle innings, and then at the end of the game they end up blowing it because one pitcher just gives up like 4 runs. So I really try not to look at like wins and losses so much. Just try to see if guys are getting some good work, and I think the Phillies are overall. They're getting some really good working right now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the starters are playing. You know, Bryson Stott's been playing a lot. Alec Boehm's been playing a good amount. Stubby's been in there. Jitsu Minto had an RBI. Rojas has been hitting pretty well. He had a homer the other day, playing some DH. What did he do instead? I don't know. He did something to himself, and now he's been DHing a little bit. But we've seen some different lineups. We've seen Trey been leading off. Schwarber led off. Harper hit second yesterday. That's been a big thing. How will this lineup look on opening day? Who will be the leadoff hitter? It seems like it's trending that Trey Turner will be leading off. Who do you want to lead off, and what's your ideal 1 through 4?
So I'm in the boat that I want Trey to lead off. I've been in the boat that I wanted to Trey to lead off ever since he really signed to Philadelphia. I think Harper batting 2 is the best scenario for him because now with the way that lineups are with DHs, him batting 2 could almost mean that there's 2 guys on base with the 9-hole being now a guy that can hit instead of a pitcher. So you have a better scenario where the 2-hole will come up with more guys on base. And if Trey can be a guy that can get on base, you know, you give Harper at bat to runner on base. That's really something you want in the 2-hole. My ideal top 4 probably right now would have to be Trey batting 1, Harper 2, Castellanos 3, and then Kyle 4. I put Castellanos over Bohm. I still have Bohm 5, but I put Castellanos over Bohm just because I feel like him hitting behind Harper would be really good. I still think Bohm could get good at bats behind Schwarber. I think Schwarber is the perfect 4 hitter for this team. He drives guys in with his home runs, and he gets the singles when he needs to. And you really want to split up those righties and lefties. I just feel like with Trey batting leadoff, it just fits so much better with this lineup because now they're a very lefty heavy lineup, and most likely 8 and 9 is going to be 2 lefties at the bottom of the order, just because by default there's so many lefties in the lineup. So if you back Kyle 1 again, there's going to be times where 8-9-1 is all lefties coming up in an inning. And that's such a bad matchup that you don't really want to have during games, especially if you're in the playoffs and you're facing a dominant right-hander. You don't really want things like that. I'm already talking about playoffs. It's only March, but it's just a fan I am. But I think ideally Trey should be in that leadoff role. I think him focusing more on getting on base, stealing bat. I really think, man, they just don't want Trey to steal. And I really think that's such a dominant part of his game that he's just missing out on because the more and more he gets on first base, the more and more times he has the opportunity to get to second with that stolen base and put a runner in scoring position for Harper. And if not, then you pick it up with Nick and you pick it up hopefully with Kyle. So they have such a dominant lineup up top. I really think that it would work best for them if it goes Trey, Harper, 1-2. I really think that Harper can be the best player that he can be with a dominant player like Trey who can get on base and can be fast. Because there's times when Kyle gets a leadoff walk or Trey gets a leadoff walk. If you put both of them on first base and Harper hits a double down the line, who's scoring from first base? Trey is. Kyle is not. I love Kyle. Kyle's probably my favorite Philly right now. You just need to get as many runs as possible for Harper and just give him the best opportunity to succeed. And I think by doing that, you have to put Trey 1 in that scenario. I think is the best thing for this team. And I think if you put Trey in that scenario, I hope that he adjusts his game to where he just needs to focus on getting on base more and not really home runs, because that's kind of been his problem in the last couple of years, because he's been forced to bat like 2 or 3 or 4, and they expect him just to hit guys in, and it just doesn't work out for him. Grounds out too much, strikes out too much. So I'm hoping he focuses on getting on base a little bit more and being the best leadoff hitter he can be for the Phillies.
Yeah, I've been very proponent on Trey leading off. I've always been I've always loved Schwarber leading off. There's nothing better than a leadoff Schwarber bomb and him getting on base and that, whatever, his walks and everything. And the winning percentage with him leading off compared to not leading off is definitely a real thing. But that's the reason I wanted to bring him in a few years ago, is because of the things he can do as a leadoff hitter. But I'm ready for a change, and I think Trey Turner is the guy to lead off. It certainly sounds like, from how Rob Thompson's been talking about it, that it's going to be Trey Turner leading off this season. And I love Bryce at 2. And my only change with your top 4 is I do have Bohm at the 3, just because he can get on base much better than I think Castellanos can. And you want to have guys on base for both Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber and all that. But like that top 4, it reminds me of the top 4 from 2008, because you have Jimmy Rollins, who's an on base and can be a power guy, and that's Trey Turner, both very speedy as well. Your 2, you have a guy that can kind of do it all. You had Jason Worth and now Bryce Harper. Of course, Harper's a little bit more power guy than Worth was, but whatever. 3, another guy that can do it all and gets on base all the time, Utley, Alec Bohm. And then 4 is your big dog, Ryan Howard, Kyle Schwarber. Like, it's feels very similar to me. Also a good amount of lefties in both those lineups as well. And I don't know. I like that top 4 a lot.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't lose sleep over Cassie or Bohm 3-5. You could, like I said, you can interchange them however you feel with matchups or whatever. I think they both could work well in that scenario. But yeah, no, you're 100% right. They get so hooked up on hitting home runs. I think a lot of the major leagues do, a lot of baseball teams do, get so hooked up on home runs and just not playing the game of baseball sometimes. And I sound like an old head right now as a 22-year-old baseball fan saying home runs don't matter. They do, and I get they do. But the Phillies, man, they just need to play their game. And their game is just scoring runs and being dominant in the order and pitching well. You know, I mean, we even talked about this team with the pitching. I think it's probably the best part of their entire team. But it's just unfortunate that they haven't been able to hit during the postseason and really be the dominant team that they know they can be on the offensive end, because it's really cost them in a lot of scenarios in the last couple of years, because their bats just go cold and they just really can't get the job done. And it's unfortunate, because we know this team can win a World Series. They're 100% at the end of the year. The people would believe this team is a World Series team. It's unfortunate that they haven't gotten it done yet. And it's unfortunate that time is running out for this core right now, because a lot of the guys are about to hit free agency again. And players are just getting older and older, man. Bryce Harper's already 32. It's been 6 years to the day since we officially signed him. And it's now time to get the ball rolling, because you only have a couple really more big years of Harper's prime that you need to capitalize on.
Yeah, yesterday was the 6-year anniversary. I remember sitting in my 5th grade class and my teacher telling us, and we were all going crazy. And it was, I remember running off the bus, excited, and going to make my YouTube video about Bryce signing. That's still up on YouTube if you really want to go watch that. But,
making me feel old. I was in my gym in high school. We had our Spirit Week and we were setting up everything, and my brother looked over at me and, we got Bryce. So making me feel old right here with 6 years ago, man.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, but hopefully year 7 on the deal will will be the best one. You mentioned free agency. Colin and I talked about this on our Bell Ringers podcast that came out last week. Everyone should go check that out. Bell Ringers. It's up on the YouTube. It's up on the podcast sites. The contract extensions are really the big story of the spring. JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber. Rangers not going to get one, so you can slice him out. But, it sounds like Schwarber's camp and the Phillies have had a good amount of discussion about it came yesterday, a broad discussion about an extension. They have a month before opening day to get it done. Do you see Schwarber getting an extension? I don't think JT will get one before the season, but do you think Schwarber will get one before opening day on March 27th?
I think there's a good chance that he does. The Phillies technically don't have a captain of the team. It's probably Bryce. Like if you're naming a captain, it's Bryce Harper. But the funny thing is, I see Kyle Schwarber as not only just a great player, he is like the player's coach. He's the guy that almost everyone goes to and everyone asks for advice. And like he pretty much the team dad, if you want to say it like that, even though all these guys are pretty much the same age as each other. But he seems like that veteran who has won the World Series. He's one of the only players on the team who's won a World Series before, and knows what it takes to win the whole thing. And him and Trey. But anyway, he just seems like that guy that just fits and gels with this team so much. That's why I love the guy. Like he is such a great piece for this team. He was such a great signing when they got him back in 2023 or 2022. And it's unfortunate that he's coming to his end on his deal right now. I do think that they are going to re-sign him over JT if they had to pick one. I know catcher is a premium in this league, and they really want a great catcher, and JT's been great, but catchers don't last forever, unfortunately. JT is getting older. They're already looking at ways to use him otherwise in like left field and other scenarios like that. But I do think that Kyle will end up getting another contract before the season starts. They really want to lock him down probably for another 2 years, make it a 3-year deal essentially with whatever the money would be, and make sure that he is staying in this lineup in this top four because he has really been a great player for them. Last year was probably his best year as a Phil, and you just want to keep seeing him bat in the top of that order behind Bryce or in front of Bryce, whatever they end up doing, and just be a constant run supporter for them.
Yeah, Schwarber's been great, and I would love to see a deal for him that could have him retiring as a Philadelphia Philly, which could be a 3-year deal really at this point. Jesus Luzardo, you wanted to talk about. He had his first start as a Philadelphia Philly this week. He only pitched, I think it was one. I think 2 innings, 19 pitches, 4 strikeouts. It's a pretty good opener against the Boston Red Sox yesterday.
I love pitching. It's funny because I can't pitch at all. I am a terrible pitcher, but I love pitching wins championship. It's like it's the same for football. It is for baseball. Defense wins championships in the NFL. Pitching wins championships in baseball. Having good pitching is such a premium in this league, and people feel like they sugarcoat it so much. You normally never see teams with bad pitch. I would say a team like that didn't win or won a World Series without great pitching was like the Dodgers last year, because that's just because they bought everybody and had the best offense. But pitching is such a premium in this league that you need to have great pitchers on your team if you're going to win. Take a team like the 2019 Nats. The Nats had outstanding pitching the entire year, and that was a big reason why they won that World Series. They were young, and they had really good players in Soto and Trey, and just career years, I guess. But having pitching is such a premium in this league, and the fact that the Phillies have, in my opinion, probably the number one pitcher in the league in Zach Wheeler, and 4 number 2s behind him is incredible. They have by far the best rotation in baseball. It's not even a debate. There is no one that goes toe-to-toe with them. I don't care what you're going to say. The Dodgers with Sasaki and Yamamoto and when Shohei, I don't want to hear it. They have the best rotation in baseball. It's not even close. Jesus Luzardo, my goodness, his slider looks ridiculous. He's hitting in the high 90s in February. In the beginning of spring training, his first start, he's hitting high 90s. He looks absolutely disgusting. He was a great pickup for them, and a guy that I never thought we could even trade for. But when we ended up trading Starlin Caba, who was a great shortstop, I really wish he was still in this organization, but so be it. When they ended up trading for him, I thought it was such a great deal. It secured their number 5 guy. It gives them a guy with leverage now with Ranger, who is going to be a free agent after this year, and they can trade at the deadline coming up. They're in such a great spot. with this rotation. And I honestly think it's going to be a dominant year from the 1 through 5. If you trade Ranger the 1 through 4, still they're going to be so good. Christopher Sanchez already looks insane. I always see the jokes that Sanchez's Cy Young odds are so low, but I wouldn't doubt it if he has a great year. You could see him in those conversations, definitely for an all-star spot. He almost had one this past season. Aaron Nola, I think, is going to be Aaron Nola. I think he's going to be your consistent guy. I think Zach Wheeler's best pitcher in baseball. I think he's going to be a really big Cy Young contender this year. But, man, this Phillies rotation looks really good. They're all hitting their stride right now. I think right now, Wheeler, Sanchez, Luzardo, and then like Romano, Alvarado, Kirk. Like, I don't think they've allowed a single run in spring training yet. They have like in the teens for strikeouts, which is ridiculous. They all look really, really good. And I'm really excited for the way this pitching staff has looked. I still think they need to do another thing with the bullpen, maybe add a really good arm at the deadline, maybe like a Ryan Helsley. I would love that. I really don't know if that's possible right now, but this pitching staff is really good. I think it's going to be the cream of the crop this year in the MLB. I'd be really shocked if we're not a top 3 pitching. Oh, like I don't know what stat you could say overall to make them the best, but if I would be shocked that they're not a top 3 team in pitching overall after this year, because they're going to be really good this year.
I think we should expect them to be in the top 3 with how this pitching is built. Luzardo yesterday confirmed 2 innings, 19 pitches, 2 strikeouts in the upper 90s. Christopher Sanchez hit 98 this week.
Unbelievable.
98. What drugs was he taking this offseason?
I don't know, man. When last season, I was seeing really good signs from him. And I honestly, it confirmed to me that he was going to be really good moving forward when they gave him that contract. Because they weren't just giving him that contract extension last year just for no reason. They knew they had something, and they needed to lock him down for a price that's manageable. Because honestly, if he were to hit the over market right now, he's getting way more money than he got last year. I forget what the deal was. It was like 4 for like 20-something, I want to say, around that contract. But he'd be getting way more money right now because you can definitely see he looks like a solid southpaw that they would love to have in this rotation. And, man, I'm fired up right now just talking about pitching because I love it so much. I think pitching is like defense, man. It wins championships. It gives you such a good advantage in the postseason to have so many fresh arms. And it's really disappointing because I thought we had a really good pitching staff last year, and it just didn't work out in that Mets series. You know, your top guys all year, like the Hoffmans and the Estevez, and Alvarados, it just didn't work out. But I'm really hoping that they feel like they kind of got knocked down last year, and I really hope they battle back and have a really good season, the whole staff. Because I think Caleb Cotham, I remember listening to him talk about the staff, and he was really pissed off that they ended 2024 on a sour note. They really want to make 2025 a really good year in that bullpen. And I really think, and rotation overall, I think it's going to be a really good year for Phillies pitching.
Flyers and the NHL deadline is approaching on Saturday, March 7th. And it looks like Scott Lawton could be on the move. He posted this on Twitter/X last night. The final supper, the Last Supper. With the painting, The Last Supper, and then Scott Lawton kind of recreated that. I don't know who he's with here, but I guess that's his family and his friends. And then he's in the middle, and to me, this feels like it for Scott. Like this is something Scott Lawton would do. Like with The Last Supper, this is kind of funny, but like if like it seems like this could be it for Lawton as a Flyer.
You know, I do think Lawton is going to get traded. It's unfortunate because he's a really good player for this team. But at this point in where the Flyers are moving forward, I do think they're just trying to build up the draft capital they have right now. I think they have 4 first-round picks in the next couple drafts. I do think that they can get a first-round pick for Scott Lawton. It seems like Washington is the team that it's leaning towards. The Capitals seem like a really good fit. They want a guy like Lawton in their line. Are on their line, and I really think that if they can end up getting a first for him, I think they have to make it go. I've heard the Senators as well. I don't know if that would be a team that would really shell out a first-round pick for him, but if they can get a first-round pick for Scott Lawton, I really do think that the Flyers have to move on. It's unfortunate because you really want a guy like him around. He's been really good, but this team is just trying to get younger. They're trying to get as many assets as they can in the next couple of years of the drafts, and just really build around Michkov to be the future of this team and the other young players that they have coming up.
Yeah, I do think that is kind of funny, The Last Supper. But I mean, Lawton he's been a leader for this. He's won an A for the past 3 seasons. He's been around with this team. I remember when they first, brought him in, and he's been a great leader. He had 4 goals earlier this year in a game. Like, Lawton's been great, but other than moving Lawton, what else could the Flyers be doing before March 7th at, I believe, 3 p.m. is the deadline? I feel like this could be the same story as last year. They make one like kind of monumental trade. They traded last year. They didn't really get, I think they got Eric Johnson in return, and that was kind of it for the deadline. Of course, we saw the Farabee and Morgan Frost move a few weeks ago, and we could see another move with Lawton here. What else could that be it for the Flyers this deadline? And kind of just like last year, nothing really huge, monumental.
So Ristolainen is really a name that we got to look out for. Excuse me. They have a really big price tag on him, rightfully so. He is a really good player for them, and he would be a really good player for any team that takes on his contract. I think they've said they want like a first and another asset, whatever that means. I really don't know if that's another pick or if that's another young player. And at the same time, they want people to take the money off his deal and take all that. So you kind of got to pick and choose what you really want. I think they could get a first for Ristolainen. It's definitely a name that you have to watch over these next couple of days and see if they're building momentum with that. Lawton and Ristolainen seem like the two that if they're going to make trade, it's going to be pretty much those two players. I don't think they really trade for goalie. I think they honestly are just going to shell out as much they can and just deal with Ersson and what they have right now. A name, though, that I've seen brought up, and I just don't know what they would do or if they would do it, and that's Sean Couturier. I love Coots, like the next guy. I think he was a really good guy to choose for to be the next captain after Giroux left. I thought it was going to be either him or Lawton to be the captain, and they ended up going with Coots, and I thought it was a great move. But I don't really know what his value would be right now. I don't think you're getting the first for Couturier. I really don't know how high of a draft pick you were, so that kind of feels like they're going to keep him around for that reason of not really being able to get much value out of him. And I don't really know if you really want to trade your captain again that you just named. But, like I said, they're really moving to be young again. They're really moving to be a team that can be better in the next couple of years if they just keep getting assets year after year. And I love Couturier. He is such a great player for them. But if they can get a really good deal from some team that is not really desperate for talent like that, but if really wants a guy like Couturier in their lineup, I really do think that they could trade Coots for something decently high. I would probably say like a second round pick is what they probably could get for Couturier. I don't really think they're going to get young players. They're probably only going to get draft picks, but I would really think it's very unlikely he's going to go. I think Ristolainen and Lawton seem like the two guys that are probably going to be dealt at some point in the next couple of days, with my thoughts leaning more towards Lawton being the one that would be going.
Yeah, it certainly seems how it is trending. And it's always, when you're a team like the Flyers right now and you can get as many picks as possible, and you do it. And it's Phillies really over the last year or two, it's kind of confusing the exact direction the Flyers want to go. Of course, we all know they want to go younger, but it doesn't really feel like they're fully committing to it yet. And could this be the deadline where they fully commit to the full youth movement and move on from some big guys like, of course, Lawton, and you mentioned Risto and maybe Coots?
Yeah, no, 100%. And if they were to get another draft pick this upcoming year, 2025, that put them at 4 for this upcoming season. That's insane how much draft capital they have right now, and to maybe trade for players as well. Maybe compare a guy with like Trevor Zegras if the Ducks want to move on for him, pair him up with Jamie Drysdale again. But there's just a lot of really good draft picks that are coming up, and they think this upcoming draft class is really deep as well. So that's why I feel like they're definitely going to do the best they can to get as many draft picks coming up this upcoming draft. And honestly, they're kind of on the same side of the Sixers. They have a good, decent amount of talent, but they just don't seem like the team that could really compete for a title. And they're just trying to lose a couple more games to get a higher draft pick for 2025 for their own pick. So it's a tough spot they're in. I hate losing guys that are really good like Lawton and Ristolainen and Coots. But at the end of the day, you really got to do it the best you can to get younger and to really start building this next team that's going to be really good.
Flyers right now have 13 total picks in 2025, including 4 second rounders, and hopefully they look to add to that number coming up at this deadline. Matt, thank you for coming on this week. I will talk to you soon.
Appreciate it.
See you. All right, Matt Brown helping us out today. And that's going to do it here on the Philly Sports Hour for March 1st. What do we got coming up tonight? Well, we got a lot. I'll tell you, we got a lot. Last week we had nothing. Or I guess 2 weeks ago, the last show. Flyers are in Winnipeg against the Jets at 7:00. Sixers are hosting the Golden State Warriors at 8:30. 8:30 on ABC. I understand why the NFL starts games at 8:20 when they do night games, but an NBA game at 8:30 is like, what are we doing? 8:30, and it's Warriors Sixers. This is an East Coast game. I don't know. It's kind of strange, but that's on ABC. And then Union home opener tonight. They're hosting Cincinnati at 7:30 in Chester. So go check that out on Apple TV. Go give them some love. And that's going to do it for the Philly Sports Hour. If you ever miss a live Philly Sports Hour, you can go check it out wherever you find your podcast, on the YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, everywhere. So you can always go listen back. And if you want to listen to it again, you can go back and do that. Go follow me on Twitter at Goldstein and PSR and Matt at Matt_Brown63. Follow Philly Sports on all social medias. Thank you to Seeking for sponsoring. This has been the Philly Sports Hour on March 1st. We will see you next week. Thank you all for watching.
Swing and a drive, left field. It's deep. It's gone. Yes! And it is gone. Yes! It is bedlam at the bank.
Look at the doctor. Yes, he's got it. Here he comes. Way back to me in his treatment slam dunk. And the doctor made a sensational play.
In front, the bucket, they score! And Giroux got it!
Plus